Good morning, welcome back to the channel. Got the key to the shed out here at Zellhart's. I'm going to show you the truck that I missed in the equipment tour. Get these doors opened up so I can get a little more light in here. Probably won't be able to do it with one hand. So we're out here at the Zellhart farm. This was my great-grandpa Zellhart's shop. He farmed his farm here, and he also had his forklift business that I talked about in the last video. This is where they worked on all those and got those forklifts converted over. There's still a forklift over there, a couple masts down there, some extra parts, but this shop, when we bought the farm, it was pretty much the way he left it. Everything was still in here. There's a lot of stuff in here. He was the guy who went to all the auctions and pretty much just bought whatever anybody didn't want. So he's got about 5 or 6 of everything out here because he would just buy them all at auctions. So that being said, we're gonna get into the video. Right here is where that old grain leg fell, and it hit the side of the building and busted this tin. We had a guy coming out today to fix it, but he just called and said he couldn't make it. So let's get into the video. So this is my dad's 1991 Peterbilt 379. It's got a 3406 13 speed. We just converted it over to 355 rear ends, so I'll show you that first. This truck had 390s, and it was starting to get a rotten spot on the frame. So we found a cutoff from a newer truck, and they cut the frame off right here and just put everything new. So we got a newer suspension. It's got, let's see, what do they call this? Low air leaf, I think. It's got low air leaf. It had air track on it. So this is a better riding suspension. Got faster gears. Before, this truck would top out at about, I mean, you could do 65, but it was screaming. So we wanted to put a little bit faster gears in it. Got that done. Had it on the road for a week, and he got into a wreck. Hope the lighting's all right in here, but what had happened was we were hauling gravel one day, and he was leaving the quarry, and you pull out of the quarry onto a kind of a state highway, and he just got going. He said he was probably going about 45, and somebody coming towards him, they either fell asleep or they were drunk, or we don't really know what exactly happened, but she started swerving into his lane, and thankfully he saw her. So he started getting over, and pretty soon he was completely on the shoulder. He said this tire was on the white line, and there's a pretty deep ditch, and the ditch just sucked him in. She ended up hitting the front left corner of the truck before he went into the ditch, and totaled out her car. She ended up in the ditch on the other side of the road. It was just a bad deal. The crazy part was, you know, Dad and I were both hauling, and we weren't running together. We had been separated already, but I came up from the opposite direction, and all of a sudden all the traffic stopped, and I'm like, I didn't really know what was going on. So I stepped out and looked up there, and I could see the top of a trailer, a dump trailer, in the ditch, and I'm like, oh man, that kind of looks like Dad. So I had a little bit of a panic moment, got out, started walking over there, and I saw him standing up by the road, so I knew he was okay. And then I could finally take a breath, and we walked up, and the truck looked like this. And it was just kind of a sick feeling because we just had the truck back on the road for a week, and then we wrecked it. So the insurance company wanted to total this truck, and to be honest, they weren't real great at working with us to try and get any money out of the people that hit us. We're assuming they don't have insurance, but our insurance company didn't really help us out that much, so we ended up keeping the truck We don't think it's hurt that bad to where we can't fix it. We're thinking the frame's not bent. We're not sure yet, but what our plan is to kind of get this truck running and keep it around for a farm truck. We won't run it as much, but it would be nice to have a third truck once in a while for when we're in the field. So I'll go through some of the damage here. Obviously, we got a flat tire, and the tire's ruined, not a big deal. When she hit, it busted this leaf spring, this top one. I'm not sure if the bottom ones are broke, but they definitely look bent. Those U-bolts, they shifted or something, so this front axle is actually slid back right here. This is where your steering arm bolts up, and it sheared right off of there. So he said when he was going off the road, he was trying to keep it on the road, but it sheared that shaft off the steering box, so he had no steering at that point. So that's what we've got going on the front end. Obviously the fender's tore up, the hood's not in very good shape, so that's gonna have to get fixed. Dinged up this air breather a little bit. We could run that for a while until we find a used one. A new one of those is over $1,000. Battery box is all smashed. There's the top of the battery box. That could be fixed. This fuel tank got smashed. I don't remember if it leaked fuel out or not. I'm thinking it did, but I'm not positive. Now towards the back end here, busted bolts on the suspension. These bolts were busted out of it, but whenever they towed it, they jacked it up and put a couple bolts back in it just to keep the rear axles from sliding around while they were pulling it down the road. That's pretty much it. So what we're thinking is we want to pull that hood off and get it out of the way, jack up the frame and get everything straight, put new bolts in the rear ends, get those back on. We'll have to pull this tank off and then start working on the front end. The front end's probably going to be the most amount of work. We got to put a new steering box and fix these springs and get that axle back where it needs to be. We're hoping the axle's fine. It should be fine. That's a big solid piece of cast, so I don't think it would bend. Down here we've got some damage where there's this cross member piece that kind of holds your exhaust on the other side, and it's got those hood mounts where the hood kind of slides in the slots to keep the hood from bouncing around when you're going down the road. But yeah, that's what we got to do to it. After they got it home, Dad hooked up the batteries and this thing fired right up, so it runs great. We just hated to see the truck go after we put all that work into fixing the back end and putting the new rear ends in it, but I guess that's why we decided to keep it. So there is our wrecked truck. We actually have a whole bunch of parts that we've gathered up to start working on this thing. We actually bought a complete frame with all the front end assembly on it, so it's got a front axle, front leaf springs and all that, and it has that cross member that we need. It doesn't have rear axles or anything, which we don't think we need anything on there, but it was also a wrecked truck that a neighbor put into the ditch and it bent the frame, so we've got all the front end parts to use off of that. Dad's bought a couple of wheels over here. We're not sure if we'll need those, but we're thinking that there's a possibility that that wheel could have got bent whenever he hit her. So basically he just found a good deal on a couple of wheels and decided to buy them. We got a new tank. It's not new, it's also off a wrecked truck. Dad found it online and bought it. It's kind of dented on the bottom, but you're not gonna see it. And we're actually going this afternoon to pick up a complete hood. Originally we were, this hood up here is kind of bent, but originally we thought if we could get that fender off and maybe take the hood to a body shop, they could straighten that out, we could put a new fender on it and we could use our same hood. But Dad found a really good deal on a hood. I don't really know the details. I'm assuming it's off a wrecked truck, but the hood's in pretty good shape. It's got a crack in one fender, but we figured for the money we might as well just put a new hood on it and it'll save us some time, and it'll probably be cheaper in the long run. We actually took the batteries out of it. If we didn't, I'd start it up for you so you could hear it run. It's a really good running old truck. It's got over 1 million miles on it. It's got maybe, I don't know, 200,000 or 300,000 on since we've overhauled it. 13-speed transmission. I never got to drive it with the 355s, which I'm really bummed about. That's why I'm hoping we get it back running. But Dad said it's a completely different truck with these faster rear ends in it. He said it just goes. So hoping that we can get started on this pretty soon. Like I said, we're going to pick up that hood today. We should have pretty much all the parts. We got to pick up that frame from those other guys over there, and I think we've got everything we need to get this truck back on the road. I just noticed our exhaust is a little banged up over here, probably from twisting down in the ditch, but that's not a big deal. But yeah, I didn't have the key for the equipment tour, so I decided I'd run over here and show you, give you a little quick video of what we got going on here. I'm hoping to do some videos chronicling us working on this thing at some point. This shed is not heated, and we don't have power in it right now because, like I said, there used to be some bins and an old leg over there. We had to tear that down, and to get them down, we had to take the power down, and we haven't got that fixed yet. I suppose I could go over there and show you. So right between these two sheds, there used to be 2 government bins with a grain leg and then a building here where you could kind of drive into the pit. The grain leg was rotted out. It didn't work anymore. The grain bins, they were small, and the only way to unload them was through that leg, which didn't work. So we used them a couple years, unloaded them through the door in the side, and it just wasn't very fun. So we were going to tear everything out. A big windstorm came before we could get the job done and blew the leg over, and it hit that shed right there, knocked the tin in. We've got the new tin right here. The guy was supposed to come work on that today, but he just called Dad, said he couldn't make it. So what we're hoping is, see, we got the power laying down right here. We need to run that back over, hook it up, then we'll have power out here with lights, and we can at least put some torpedo heaters or whatever in here and get it warmed up. Although our winter's been pretty warm, so we might just get some 50-degree days to work on it. But yeah, that's what's going on with the old truck. Hopefully we can get it running before spring or summer. I don't know if we'll have a whole lot of time to work on it, but I'd like to get started on it because I'd love to see it run again. So once again, thanks for watching. If you liked the video, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and we'll see you on the next one.